guy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here bringing you the latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Well, actually, no. There's really no Brooklyn Nets news. It's August 31st, almost beginning of September. Still about 2 months away from the regular season, about a month away from preseason games. So there's really not a lot to talk about Nets-wise. So I've decided to do something I did 2 years ago when I first started these Nets Boys episodes, and that was rank my top 5 players in each respective positions. That's something I did 2 years ago. I thought it was pretty successful. I enjoyed it. And I didn't do one last year, but I feel like, you know what? Why not do it this year? Why not? So that's what I'm doing. So this is the beginning of my Nets Boy top 5 in each respective position, starting with point guards. So let's just dive right into this. So before I start, I want you to understand that this is based off of last season. And so players like, Derrick Rose isn't going to really be there and so on and so forth because he didn't play the whole season. He was hurt. He missed a lot of games. Players like that aren't going to be in this. I'm just foreshadowing because when I do shooting guards, Kobe Bryant is not going to be in my shooting guards next week because of the fact that he didn't really play last year. So these are the players who played last year, played enough games to qualify for the awards and all that fun stuff. And so no one get like, oh, he's missing people. There's a reason. It's because if they didn't play last year, didn't play enough games last year, they're not going to be on my list. So here I go. Let's start with my honorable mention. My honorable mention is John Wall. Now, John Wall had a very good year last year, 17 points per game, 10 assists. I have the stats right here. 10 assists, 4.6 rebounds. Turnovers were a little high, over 3.8 turnovers. Efficiency rating 19.92, 44% field goal percentage. Just a very solid year for John Wall. Honorable mention wise, you can make a lot of arguments for a lot of guys honorable mention wise. Kyle Lowry is float around there. A lot of people would say Tony Parker. Tony Parker is not in my top 5. I'm just letting you know. His age kind of got to him last year. He's still a great point guard, but I don't put him as my top 5. But there's a lot. I think Kyle Lowry is someone you could make the argument for. But in my case, I just got John Wall, and it's simple. 17 and 10. If you're a 17 and 10 point guard, you should be in the top 5. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you give 17 points a night, 10 assists, you're a top 5 point guard in my eyes. So that's why. Well, excuse me. He's not a top 5. He's an honorable mention. He's an honorable mention. He should get recognition for being a 17 and 10 player. The only downside to John Wall, turnovers, 3.8 turnovers. And he's not an efficient scorer as well. I mean, it's as simple as that. But that's why he's my honorable mention. So John Wall, honorable mention. Number 5 will be Damian Lillard of the Portland Trailblazers. So, Damian Lillard, 21 points per game, 6.2 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 20.79 player efficiency rating, shot 43%, 34% from three-point land. He's number 5 because 21 and 6. That's pretty darn good. The knock on him is field goal percentage. 43% isn't that great. It's not terrible, but it's not that great. Also, 2.7 turnovers with only 6.2 assists. I'm not a huge fan. But you look at the overall point guards from last season. He's definitely a top 5. Could you argue that John Wall is better than him? You could try to. I wouldn't. Things you need to remember is these are my top 5 players that if I was starting a team, this is the order I would get them. Well, actually, reverse order, which I'm getting them. I'm going 5 through 1. So, I would pick Damian Lillard over John Wall if I had to choose between the two of them. I think Lillard's numbers are going to skyrocket without really any help, since the Trailblazers are just bad now since they got rid of everyone. I think his numbers are going to be a little bloated because of it. I think he's going to shoot a poor shooting percentage, like 41%, but he's going to average like 25 points and like 7 assists probably. But he's still, to me, he's number 5. I mean, you can't really argue it with 21 and 6 and a solid percentage, solid rebounds, just a solid point guard. So he's number 5. Number 4 is Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving could very easily be a top 3, but playing alongside LeBron James, he obviously is second in command, but still put up 21.7 points, 5.2 assists, 3.2 rebounds, 21.57 player efficiency rating, shot 46% and 41% from 3. That's pretty decent. I have him over Damian Lillard because of the turnovers, 2.5%. I mean, actually not that big of a difference because if you take the assist to turnover ratio, they're about the same. So maybe that's not the big thing, but it's really the percentage. 46%, 41% from 3, much better field goal percentage and efficient scoring, higher player efficiency rating than Damian Lillard. And let's be honest, LeBron James isn't in Cleveland. Damian Lillard's numbers would be like 25 and 8. Let's be honest. So Lillard, it's a close one. But Kyrie Irving is better than Damian Lillard. They're all really close bunched up here. I got Damian Lillard a notch over John Wall, and I got Kyrie Irving a notch over Damian Lillard. But I would take Kyrie Irving over Lillard, which is why Kyrie's 4 and Lillard's 5. So like I said, I mean, once again, you can't argue with 21 and 5. The assists are a little low for someone I want as my point guard, but you have to remember he's playing alongside LeBron James, who has the ball in his hand 70% of the time really 5.2 assists is pretty impressive from a guy who predominantly doesn't have the ball in his hands. I mean, really, if it wasn't in LeBron's hands, it was in his hands, but still, to me, I think that's pretty good. So, but that's why he's number 4. Now, number 3, I have Russell Westbrook. Now, I hate Russell Westbrook. I do not like the guy. I think he's very overrated, and he'll probably be in my top 5 overrated countdown, which I'll do at the end of the year. Not the end of the year. The end of the month, probably, because I end up doing that too. After I do the top 5 in each respective positions, I do top 3 overrated and underrated players. I think he's extremely overrated. Yes, 28 points a game, 8.6 assists, 7.3 rebounds. The guy had incredible games last season, which is why he's number 3, but 4.4 turnovers, only shot 42%, 29% from 3. I don't want my point guard having under a 2 turnover ratio, and that's what he had, 4.4 turnovers. But because he did score 28 and 8, did have a player efficiency rating of 29.12, which was actually the highest among all point guards, you got to still put him in the top 3. But I'm going to be honest, I don't want my point guard turning the ball over 4.5 times a game almost. I mean, I don't know about you. Turnovers are costly. When a team averages about 12 turnovers a game, you have one player responsible for more than a third of those turnovers. That's a problem. But you can't argue 28 points, and you can't argue 8.6 assists. You can't argue the fact that he had incredible games. You can't argue that he's a walking triple-double, 7.3 assists. Rebounds. You can't argue that. I mean, yes, Durant was hurt a lot this year, which was why his numbers were like that. But Westbrook was also not fully healthy as well. But, I mean, I can't put him higher than 3 because I look at those turnovers, and 42% field goal percentage is not that good. It's not. And 29% from 3 is not that good. And he shoots a bit of 3s, Westbrook. I just look at those 4.4 turnovers. That's why I couldn't put him higher than 3. A lot of people try to make the argument that he'll be he's number 1 point guard. I can't do it. But he's definitely top 3 because, to be honest, the guy can score. But now brings me to number 2. Now, number 2 and number 1, this could start some controversy. We'll see what some of you might have to say. Feel free to comment and post whatever you think. Put your own top 5 spin on it. But I have Stephen Curry at number 2. Now, I know what a lot of people are immediately saying. NetsBoy, what the hell? Stephen Curry is the MVP. He won a championship. How could you possibly have him as the number 2 point guard? What are you, stupid? Well, calm down and let me explain. Obviously, my number 1 point guard is Chris Paul. So let me just compare the two of them for you, and you can see why I have Stephen Curry at number 2 and Chris Paul at number 1. Stephen Curry, 23.8 points per game, 7.7 assists, 4.3 rebounds. 3.1 turnovers, though. Player efficiency rating of 28.06. Field goal percentage, 48%. Fantastic. 3 shooting percentage, 44%. Fantastic. And over 2 steals a game. Those are MVP numbers. Also played for the best team in the NBA. But here is Chris Paul's numbers. 19.1 points per game, 10.2 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 2.3 turnovers, 26.04% efficiency rating, 48% field goal percentage, 39% 3 shooting percentage, and 1.9 steals per game. Now, if you didn't follow that, let's compare them side by side. Stephen Curry, 23.8 points, Chris Paul, 19.1. Stephen Curry averaged more points per game, more than 4 points more per game. However, Stephen Curry is a number 1 scoring option on a run and gun, fast pace, shoot the ball up a lot of threes. Warriors team. Chris Paul, he's more like the 2nd or 3rd scoring option, depending on, what Blake Griffin is doing, and depending on what's Jamal Crawford coming off the bench. Really, he's more the number 2. That's really more. Let's be honest. Blake Griffin is number 1, but let's be honest. If Chris Paul is shooting as many threes and shooting as many shots as Stephen Curry, he'd probably be having about the same amount of points per game. And points is not everything when you're dealing with point guards. I'm just going to be straight up honest with that. So I look at that and I say, yeah, Stephen Curry averaged 4 more points per game, but he was in a much different system in which Stephen Curry shot a lot of threes. He's the number 1 scoring option. Chris Paul's the number 2 scoring option. If Chris Paul was the number 1 scoring option, he'd probably have the same amount of points per game. So that's the way I look at that. Assists. 7.7 assists to 10.2 assists. You cannot argue that. Chris Paul is just a better passer. And that is what I want in my point guard. I don't know about you, but I want a point guard who can control the tempo of the game and pass the ball. Not that 7.7 is bad. That's why Stephen Curry's number 2. But Chris Paul's 10.2. Chris Paul led the league in assists. I mean, can't argue that one. Rebounds. Somehow Chris Paul had more than Stephen Curry. Chris Paul's 6 feet tall. He had 4.6 rebounds. Stephen Curry, 4.3. That's basically a wash. That's an even bit right there. But here is where, and steals are even too. 2 steals to 1.9. That's a wash. Field goal percentage. 48% to 48%, identical. 3 shooting percentage, okay, Stephen Curry's 44%. That's ridiculous, by the way. Chris Paul's still 39. That's pretty good. So I give a little notch on Stephen Curry in 3 shooting percentage, and I guess a little notch in points, but not really. But the truth of the matter is, and this is why I have Chris Paul at number 1 and Stephen Curry at number 2, is the assist to turnover ratio. Point guards have the ball in their hands in most teams, unless LeBron James is on the team, majority of the time. Majority of the time, the point guard has the ball in his hands. Turnovers destroy you in the NBA. You cannot have a good team if you turn the ball over. You cannot have a good point guard if you turn the ball over. That's why I don't like Russell Westbrook. Now, 3.1 turnovers a game? Anytime you're over 3 turnovers, that's not good. It's not good. Chris Paul's only 2.3. 3.1, 2.3. Almost a turnover less. But Chris Paul averaged 10.2 assists. Stephen Curry averaged 7.7 assists. Huh? Stephen Curry's turnover to assist ratio is 2.4. Chris Paul's 4.4. Almost double Stephen Curry's assist-to-turnover ratio. And if you don't know what that means, it means for every 4.5 assists, Paul will make 1 turnover. So basically, every time, the time he passes the ball, 4 out of 5 times it's going to be good, or he's not going to turn the ball over. Stephen Curry, 2.4. So every 2 assists, he has 1 turnover. Well, no, that's not true. That's not what that means. But he has 2. But actually, it is. Yeah, 2 assists. 3 assists. You want to round up or whatever. You see what I'm saying? That is huge. That is huge to me as a fan, as a player, or not a player. I never played. As a fan, but or just as an analyst. That's why I got Chris Paul number 1. 2.3 turnovers, but you're still passing the ball over 10 times a game. Assisting. That's what I want in my point guard. Yes, Stephen Curry had more points per game. Yes, Stephen Curry shot a higher 3 shooting percentage. But guess what? He turned the ball over more and had less assists. I want my point guard to pass the ball and be efficient and control the tempo of the game. Stephen Curry did a very good job this year doing that. Look, those aren't bad numbers. 7.7 assists isn't bad. 3.1 turnovers isn't great, but it's not terrible. The guy won the MVP because he shot 48% and 44% from 3, which is ridiculous. He was the best player on the team with the best record that won the NBA championship. Of course he's going to win the MVP. But is he really the best point guard? My opinion, no. Chris Paul is still the best point guard. 19 and 10, less than 2.5 turnovers a game. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. I think if you're a real basketball fan or a real basketball junkie, I think you take a 19 and 10 guy who's only turning the ball over 2.25 times a game, or 2.33 times a game, compared to someone who's scoring 23 points and 7 assists, but turning the ball over 3 times a game. You know what I mean? Think about it. Is those 4 points that Curry's scoring really making him that much better of a player than Chris Paul? Remember what I said. Chris Paul is the second scoring option. And Stephen Curry's definitely the number 1 scoring option on his team. Though, let's be honest, the Warriors, everyone scores. But, let's be honest. Does that really make him a better player? That's why I got Chris Paul number 1, Stephen Curry number 2. Go ahead. Argue it. I think you'll be stupid if you do, because assist to turnovers is huge. It's, to me, one of the most underrated statistics is the assist to turnover ratio. And Chris Paul led with 4.4 assist to turnover ratio. Anything that's 3 or better for the assist to turnover ratio is great. Anything that's less than 3, it's not that good. Ask John Stockton. He'll tell you. He'll tell you how important that stat is. That's why I got Chris Paul number 1. Say what you want. I think he's number 1. Like I said, I think you'd be wrong if you think Stephen Curry's better. If I had to pick between the two of them, I'd take Chris Paul every time over Stephen Curry. I would. So there you have it. My top 5 point guards. In review, honorable mention, John Wall. Number 5, Damian Lillard. Number 4, Kyrie Irving. Number 3, Russell Westbrook. Number 2, Stephen Curry. And number 1, Chris Paul. There you have it. So, tell me what you think. Tell me if you think that maybe Kyle Lowry should have been there. Maybe you still somehow think Derrick Rose, despite not playing half the year, should be there. Maybe somebody else. I'm trying to think of other point guards that played last year who are worth, maybe Tony Parker. If you really think that he's still a top 5 point guard, post it. Put down your top 5. Tell me if you agree with me that Chris Paul's better than Stephen Curry. We'll see. Let me know what you think, guys, and keep your eyes open for the latest NetsBoy. I'm probably going to make this weekly, with my next week episode being the top 5 shooting guards in the league. All right, that's going to be fun. Once again, Kobe will not be on that list because he barely played. But keep your eyes open for that. Comment. Let me know what you think. And until then, this is NetsBoy Signing off.